Hello everyone, I welcome all of you to IIM Udaipur Research Day 2026 podcast session. I am Piali, doctoral candidate at IIM Udaipur. It's a great honor to have Professor Praveen K with us. He is Signal Company's professor in management and professor in marketing at Tug Business School, Dartmouth. And he is also departmental editor at Production and Operations Management Journal. He received the American Marketing Association's Gil Churchill Award for lifetime contribution to marketing in 2024, and he also received AMA's Lifetime Achievement Award in retailing and pricing in 2018. Thank you, Professor, for joining us today.
Thank you, Piali. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Professor, could you begin by sharing what shaped your research journey from training to current work you do at the intersection of marketing strategy, analytics, and innovation?
Sure, would love to. My research journey began as an engineering student in Hyderabad, India at the Usmania University. Then joined the MBA program at the Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore. I thought I would go into finance and so on. But then in the classes, I started asking questions like, in marketing courses, how do you know the price is correct? The companies are spending so much in advertising. How do you know this advertising is working? Then my professor said, you got to get a PhD in marketing to answer these questions. I'll write you a good recommendation letter at a place called Columbia University in the city of New York. So I landed as a PhD student at Columbia University in New York City, and that changed my outlook on research. The research environment at Columbia is so vibrant, and that's when I truly realized what world-class research looks like, and I was completely immersed in that. I worked there with Don Lehman, my advisor, and I took courses in many different areas, including economics, operations research, statistics, psychology, and so on. And after my PhD, joined Dartmouth College in Hanover, New Hampshire. And Dartmouth really brought in this notion of addressing managerially relevant issues in my research. So I began my research journey as a analytical modeler with theorems and proofs and so on, and then very quickly I realized that it's very difficult to push a purely analytical paper, and got into data and analytics and began doing empirical modeling. In that context, started doing experiments as well, and that began my research journey as a multi-method researcher, where I've done qualitative research and conceptual models as well. Then very quickly the endogeneity and the unobserved heterogeneity police came along. So then I realized I got to build the muscle of building dynamic structural models. Then got into machine learning when it was not sexy at all. That led into AI and innovation. And so here I am, continuously learning and keeping those muscles in shape.
Your research integrates econometrics, machine learning, and theory-driven modeling. So, how do you balance this methodological sophistication with managerial relevance?
CPL, my philosophy in research is rigor and relevance in the spirit of theory for practice, in the sense that I want to use the most state-of-the-art methods, not for the sake of the method alone, but more importantly, the substantive issue that I'm addressing. So I want to be able to research issues that are managerially relevant but rigorously done. So I ask myself three questions in my research, and as a reviewer as well. Is my research novel? Is it rigorously done? And is it relevant? And that's how I try to integrate rigor and relevance in everything that I do, and you will see that in pretty much all of my research papers.
You have studied AI generated content a lot, customer reviews, and advanced analytics. So what do you see as the biggest opportunity and risks of AI in marketing decision making nowadays?
See, the biggest risk in AI is hallucination. And for the uninitiated, they wouldn't even know what variable that is being hallucinated. Only a trained eye, only an expert in that particular domain can really figure out what is being hallucinated by the AI. That's the biggest risk, and someone who's casually looking at it will not be able to identify that. That is the biggest risk, and one of the research projects that I'm working on is on addressing the hallucination issue, which is a very tough issue. But the opportunity is, AI brings worldwide knowledge to your fingertips.
The next question is for the firms which are operating in emerging markets like India. So, what strategic lessons emerge from your research on pricing, loyalty programs and digital platforms?
Great. Three-part answer to that. One, firms need to understand there's only one pricing strategy, that's dynamic pricing. Second, they have to do things that will build customer loyalty. That is the key. For example, as a customer, I signed my life off to 3 companies in this world: Amazon, Delta Airlines and American Express. Among the 3 of them, they know a lot more about me than I know myself, because human beings forget, computers don't.
Right.
And third is leverage digital platform to do the first point of dynamic pricing, the second point of building customer loyalty.
Your work also has implications for public policy, including areas such as healthcare, energy and sustainability. How should policymakers think about the ethical use of big data and analytics?
Great question again. From my standpoint, there's a big opportunity in big data and AI in the healthcare arena, because according to Center for Disease Control, all of us cannot suffer from more than 2,445 diseases. That's the maximum number of diseases that we can suffer from. And there are only 638 symptoms that we all can identify for a patient. And when the physician asks any questions, there are only 510 signs that we can articulate. And if you combine all the laboratory tests and X-rays and everything, that is a maximum of 2,671 diagnostic measures. So it's a very finite set. Think about that. With all of this, AI can look at all these combinations and then map these tests and signs and symptoms and so on to say what is the probability this patient is suffering from which disease. So they can actually help the physician even before the physician sees the patient and give a measure in terms, hey, here is my measure, I suppose, doing all the background work to the physician, so that the physician can actually provide a better healthcare diagnosis and prognosis for the patient, as opposed to the physicians are very busy, they have a small amount of time, they're probably 15-20 minutes with the patient, and in those 15-20 minutes their brain is churning, trying to figure out, hey, what might this disease be? So it reduces all that pressure and relieves that, and it will be a fantastic AI assisted model for the physician. There's a great opportunity here, and as long as the hospitals don't use this data for other purposes, patients would love for the physician to have access to all this data, so that at the end they're going to get better health care.
Let's move on to our next question. So the next question is, for managers facing analytics overload, what guiding principles would you recommend for prioritizing data-driven decisions?
Makes sense. If you think about guiding principles, if you think of what has happened in the past, let's say a decade or two, the data storage costs have gone down exponentially, and the computing power of machines has gone up exponentially. So it's really, and so stars are aligned in terms of massive data storage and computing power and so on. But when I talk to managers, what they tell me is that, hey, I mean, we have sitting on a lot of data, but we don't know what to do with it. Either because they don't have the time to analyze it, or that they're not skilled in machine learning and big data and analytics to be able to do that. And what I don't want them to fall into the trap of what's known as apophenia. Apophenia is trying to find meaningless patterns in random data when those patterns don't exist. So that goes back to this machine learning, and AI is only as good as the data that it is being trained on. So take this self-driving cars, if Tesla wants to be really at the cutting edge of self-driving cars, they need to crash a lot of cars, because they don't have much data on car crashes, because wherever car crashes happens, there's no video camera there. So the data are best simulated. So if you really want to really avoid car crashes, you have to be able to predict car crashes, and in order to be able to predict car crashes, you need to have actual car crashes. So until and unless Tesla crashes a whole bunch of cars, it can't be the leader in self-driving cars. So I hope that makes sense to you.
Right, of course, yes, right. That's a great learning. Yeah. So let's move on to our rapid fire questions. Sure. So the first question, so I would be asking 3 questions.
Sure.
First one is one research method every marketing PhD student should master.
Machine learning analytics, machine learning skills, yeah.
Wow. Second one is a paper or a book that has strongly influenced how you think about analytics and strategy.
Great question. The book that I love is a book called Dynamic Programming by Richard Bellman. Yes. And that book was written in 1957, spawned many streams of literature in economics, operations, management. I'm surprised that Bellman hasn't received the Nobel Prize in economics.
Yeah, so let's move on to our third question. One emerging trend in marketing analytics or digital pricing that excites or concerns you?
The one that excites and concerns me is dynamic pricing, which is essentially pricing across 4 dimensions: across people, across products, across places, and across periods.
Wow. So we are done with the rapid fire round. So we are moving towards the conclusion of the podcast. So to conclude, what single piece of advice would you offer to early career researchers and business leaders aiming to work at the frontier of analytics, marketing,
Sure.
and strategy?
I'll tell you how I lead my life. That is, there is no substitute to hard work. Second, there are no shortcuts in life. Stay out of politics.
Wow, that's great. Thank you, Professor Kupale. It was wonderful talking to you, and your insights are really meaningful and relevant for today's business landscape and for the researchers in marketing as well as in other disciplines. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. The pleasure is all mine. Namaste.
Thank you.